All right, welcome to Building the Athlete. I'm your host, Scott Benson. Today with me is Morgan Kane. We're going to hear about Morgan here. I want some introductions, but first off, I'm going to ask you a question right now. It is basketball related, just to get things rolling. Do basketball players play too much basketball?
Oh, that's a good question. Like with certain ages? Are you talking
Yeah,
about?
high school basketball players that are playing high school, they're playing club, they're playing year round. Is it too much?
I think it's a little bit of an overkill. Yeah.
Okay.
I do think that it's a whole bunch. It's a lot that you're doing, and I think the road that you go on of doing that can lead to some burnout. There needs to
Yeah.
be balance.
Awesome. We'll get back to that. So, Morgan, introduce yourself. Tell us where you came from, where you've been, and what you're doing.
Okay, yes. So, my name is Morgan Kane. I'm from originally born and raised Salt Lake City, Utah. So, I got the opportunity to play basketball at Iowa State University. I played there from 2018 to 2023. During my time there at Iowa State, we went to the Sweet 16, and we also went to 2023 Big 12 champions. So that's my claim to fame. Super proud of that. Super proud to be on a team that I was able to contribute and work towards that. So that was amazing. During my time at Iowa State, I got my bachelor's degree in exercise science with a minor in nutrition. So I redshirted my freshman year of Iowa State. So I played at Iowa State for 5 years and really worked my way from the bottom and found my way into a starting position. I found my role on the team through a lot of grit and grind. And then after my time at Iowa State, I went to Nova Southeastern University, a really small school, a D2 school in Florida, where I played my 6th year and I got my master's in sports science. So a big part of me going down there was the master's program. And while I was there, we went to the Sweet 16. So that was an awesome cherry on top to end my collegiate career.
Ready to be part of something big? Meet the Rapid City Sports Commission, the powerhouse behind sports in Rapid City. The commission focuses on bringing regional and national tournaments, supporting homegrown events, and creating opportunities for our kids. But it's not just games, it's a win-win for all of us. Youth sports fuel our economy. Hosting events in Rapid City means out-of-town families shop, dine, and stay with us, which boosts sales tax revenues too. To get in on the action, visit rcsportscommission.com, where we're all about the hustle.
Okay, awesome. So in high school, you said you're from Salt Lake. Were you just a basketball player? Or did you play multiple sports?
So in high school, I played volleyball and basketball. I started that my sophomore year. I was playing volleyball and basketball, but ended up uh, dropping volleyball to just play basketball. So I was primarily basketball all year round. And looking back, I wish I would have stayed with some more volleyball, just to have some more balance, use my athleticism in different ways. Good for the body, good for the mind. But I was primarily basketball.
Okay, so let's get into that multi-sport athlete debate. I ask most of my guests this question about their feeling on being a multi-sport athlete as opposed to specializing in a sport. My answer is it's very dependent on the individual. I think everybody's different. Everybody has different needs and develops differently. But what is your take on, whether or not you should be a multi-sport athlete?
I think a general blanket statement I would make is it's great to be a multi-sport athlete. It's not only is it keeping your mind fresh of transitioning to, okay, we're in this fall sport or the winter sport, spring sport, but it also kind of the repetitive movements of your one sport, you can change it up with other sports. The demands of one sport is going to be different than another one. Even though like maybe you can argue, okay, basketball and volleyball are similar, but they still demand different things at times. So that would be my blanket statement, and I think that athletes can have one primary sport, but have a fun sport on the side, one that they can enjoy. I would lean towards that. Have something fun. That's just you're there maybe with your buddies and you're enjoying that sport.
Yeah. One thing I tell a lot of athletes is do, whatever your main sport is, if it's basketball, football, soccer, whatever it is, and then as your second sport, do an individual sport,
Hmm.
because it's just a completely different dynamic, and you learn completely different lessons from that. I've had, Division 1 basketball players, volleyball players that say, going to the state track meet and competing in front of 10,000 people was the most nervous I've ever been, because you're out there on an island. If you're having a bad day, you can't really, hide behind your teammates. It's
Mhm.
just you. And I think that's, I think that's a good thing for kids to experience. You made the comment, it's a great way to keep your mind fresh. Let's talk about that a little bit. I have a lot of basketball players that I work with. They're playing they're playing 70 or 80 games a year between
Mhm.
high school and club season. Is there any way you can keep it fresh playing that much? I mean, NBA players don't play that much. How is a 16 or 17-year-old high school kid supposed to do that?
Yeah, great question. I don't know. Man, my first initial thought kind of goes to, so I'm big into mindset with athletes, and my thought goes to identity. What is your identity as an athlete, but what is your identity outside of being an athlete? You need to be able to, when you're done with your basketball game, go have something you enjoy doing outside of basketball. I think you need kind of a way to escape or a little break in some way. Maybe you love to read books. I don't know. Or maybe it's go on hikes, or I don't know, paint, whatever. But I think you have your like basketball identity, and that's who you are, your sport identity of why you get up at 6 a.m. for a lift, or why you keep going to practice, or why you play 70 games a year. You have goals, you're trying to strive towards things. But I think you need to have an identity outside of basketball too, of who are you outside of your sport. And I think that's where it gives you a little bit of a break. Because if you are going to play that many games, you need to have a little out.
Do you think higher level athletes, those that move on and play at the Division 1 level, do you think a pretty high percentage of them lose their identity to their sport?
I would say so. Yep. I think if I had to argue, I'd say high level athletes can lose themselves in their sport. And that's why when you hang up the basketball shoes, when you're done with your career, or hang up any shoes, when you're done with your career, it makes it that much harder. Or if you have a career ending injury, makes it that much harder to say, okay, what now? Because my world was that sport. I would hope that like going to a Division 1 university, there are the resources in place to teach you like, hey, okay, what's life after your sport looks like. I know that for Iowa State, we had a curriculum my senior year that did exactly that. Walked us through what's your identity outside of your sport, because it's going to end at some point. So let's figure out who are you outside of athletics? And I think what a great opportunity for a high school student to start that conversation, start that thought process, so you can be even more prepared when you go into Division 1 athletics or any college athletics, and kind of know yourself better. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish when I was there they would have had something like that, because it's a huge transition, just, not only physically and lifestyle, where your days are so structured, and you go from class to practice, and you're constantly going. But my mindset going into Iowa State was I was going to be an Olympic athlete. But, when I was 18 years old, 19 years old, there was no question in my mind. And then things go the way they go, and it doesn't work out. You don't meet the expectation that you set.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden it's over.
Mhm.
And, it definitely took me some time to adjust, because I mean, if I'm being honest, I didn't put a whole lot of effort into academics when I was in college. That was not my mindset. That was not where I was going. So then I get out and it's like, oh, cool. Like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And almost, you almost have to reinvent yourself. And so I'm glad to hear that they do have those type of resources available to athletes. You brought up getting injured. Did you ever deal with any serious injuries?
I was lucky that I didn't, but I saw so many teammates go through that. Some of
Yeah.
my best friends in high school and college go through that. I feel really blessed that I didn't have to experience that, but hard to watch from the outside in. And I can't pretend to know what's going on in people's head that get injured or have that career ending injury. But yeah, that's just a huge, not only physical roadblock, but mental roadblock to overcome, whether you are able to heal to get back into sport or have to call it quits.
Yeah, I think it can provide, as valuable of a lesson as sports itself does, because my philosophy is, I mean, at the end of the day, I've worked with thousands and thousands of kids, and it's awesome when I have a kid make it to the NFL or Major League Baseball or the Olympic trials. But that's, it's just such a rare thing. And so
Mhm.
my philosophy is, let's use sports to become great human beings and productive human beings once sports is over. I just think there's so many great lessons that you learn. And
Mhm.
one of those lessons is time management for sure. My next question is, you work with high school athletes. I work with high school athletes as well. I've had, I think, over 400 athletes that have moved on to play at the college level. I hear from the time they're 12 years old till they graduate, I want to be a Division I athlete. I want to be a Division I athlete, but I don't know if they know what that really means. You know it, I know it, but tell me, and just for our listeners and for any young athletes that are listening, sometimes it's not as glamorous as you think. So walk me through, what does a day in the life of a women's basketball player at Iowa State look like?
Yeah. Um, I it's a grind. It's a grind. And I didn't realize it until I got into it. Like people tried to tell me about it as I was in high school and I committed, but you don't realize how much it is until you're in it. And it is a huge commitment. And the importance of being organized is so essential, of kind of being on top of it. You're an adult in a big program that's looking to win. So you need to act accordingly and be efficient as well. So day in the life, probably waking up early before classes to go do a lifting session. I was always in the early lifting group. I don't know why, but I was like the 6:30 lifting group. So getting up early in the morning, doing our lift, and then going to class. So for Iowa State women's basketball, we had all of our classes in the morning because practice and individual workouts was in the afternoon. Classes in the morning, probably from maybe 8 to 1, 8 to noon, and then going to the facility, getting lunch, and kind of getting into that basketball mode of watching film with your specific sports coach, maybe doing an individual training session if you're looking for some extra reps or need some extra help or guidance with a play or a specific skill or move. So I always loved doing one-on-ones with the individual coaches. So watch film, maybe an individual session for like 30 minutes, and then getting into practice. Practice would last maybe 2 to 3 hours, depending on the time of the year. So in season, we're watching film as a team. So not only am I individually watching film with my personal position coach, but then you watch film as a team. You're watching film of the team you're scouting, the team you're about to play. If we're in season, practice is like 2 hours, staying focused. Obviously, it depends on how far are you out from a game, of how hard that practice is going to be. After practice, it's kind of rehab, getting your body right. It's going into the athletic trainer and getting in the hot tub, the cold tub, doing anything you need to get your body ready for the next day. Go get team dinner with your teammates and then go home, do some homework for an hour, 2 hours, fit in as much as you can and try to get to bed at a decent time.
Yeah. So it's a packed full day.
Yes, it is.
So you were in the early lifting group, the 6:30 lifting group. How many days a week was that?
In season, we'd probably lift 2 to 3 times a week in season. Out of season, doing like 4 times a week.
How many teammates did you have that was a huge shock to their system, that, they, in high school really hadn't been in a weight room or were not real, had their bodies were not used to that type of stress on them? Is that something you saw a lot of?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So the freshmen in the strength training, so Iowa State women's basketball, everyone arrives in the summer to do summer workouts, summer conditioning. You're not really doing much workouts with your coaches. It's more team-based. Everyone's getting to know each other, the freshmen, the transfers. And during that time, at least for Iowa State women's basketball, we had our own strength coach. Really blessed and really lucky to have our own coach. But she would have the freshmen lift by themselves. So we had a freshman lifting group in the summer. So they had maybe 2 months of lifting on their own, while the whole team did one program, and then the freshmen by themselves did another program, and that was basically to get freshmen up to speed. I was really close with our strength coach because I redshirted my freshman year, so I loved being in the weight room. I hung out in the weight room. I asked her so many questions because I just wanted to know. I was so curious, and I was looking to get stronger and faster and better myself. So I hung out in the weight room a lot, and I learned a lot from her, our strength coach. And she said, like, we put the freshmen in their own workout program to see where they're at. Are they quality movers? Do they know how to squat correctly? Like, how's their movement patterns? How's their form? And so they would do kind of a progression with those freshmen, make sure they know what they're doing, make sure they're up to speed. Let's build a little bit before they were integrated with the rest of the team. So I would say maybe half were kind of green in the weight room, but I think you learn fast and you kind of figure out the movements. If you're green, I think you learn quickly because you're around other girls that know what they're doing and you wanna be up to speed with them. But I did strength training at a private facility in high school, and transitioning from that high school training, which was amazing. I loved it. It really got me prepared for college strength training, but at the same time, it's kind of a different level when you get into college. You're lifting with seniors that have been there for 4 or 5 years, and you're seeing where they are, where you are, and where you want to be. And so you really get pushed and challenged in different ways. This is a strength coach that's different than that high school strength coach. Maybe you have thoughts on that as well.
Yeah. Well, you made a good point that, you get there and you're lifting with 22 and 23-year-old women, but with the transfer portal now, that's who you're also fighting to get recruited against. Kind of my point to all this, and the reason I asked the question is, I have these conversations with, with all high school athletes, not just female basketball players, but like, look, if you think you want to try to play at the Division I level, you are no longer just competing against other high school seniors. You are competing against grown men and women that are 22, 23 years old. They've got 4 or 5 years of experience. They've been in a college weight room for a long time. And if you think you're going to skip those steps, it's just not going to happen. And one problem I run into, and we've talked about this already, is these players that are playing 70, 80 games a year, they're too beat up to get in the weight room. They're run down, they're beat up, mentally they're beat up. And that's my original question. Are basketball players playing too much basketball? So thoughts on kind of the underutilization of sports performance with those young athletes because they're playing too much?
Yeah, I think being in the like performance training, strength training is such a tool, and you need to use that to boost you forward, because when you get into a college setting, that's a huge priority. And I'd say it's highly prioritized by a lot of head coaches these days. Maybe not some of the old school ones, but a majority of them are. So, and man, a part of taking care of your body, so I tell athletes, take care of your body and your body will take care of you. And you can get so tunnel vision through playing your sport all year long and not recovering your body to continue to keep going forward, and that's going to lead to injury. But by taking care of your body, you got to fill the small buckets. You got to do the little things of, are we eating correctly? Are we fueling ourselves with the adequate nutrition for our bodies? Are we sleeping enough? Are we drinking enough water, electrolytes, whatever that is? Are we taking care of our body in other ways? And part of that is strength training, keeping our building muscle, building strength. Because if you're playing that many games, you're just maintaining or losing the muscles that you gained and built.
Yeah. I have an NFL player that he calls it, that's your body armor. Being in the weight room is your body armor. It doesn't matter if it's in season, off season, you don't stop. Like that's a really frustrating thing for me, is where an athlete will train all summer and then football or volleyball starts and it's like, well, no, I'm in season now. Well, you can get stronger in season. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions a lot of times with the weight room, and it's it's not just the weight room. It's speed development, it's force
Yep.
production, it's mobility, it's all of it packaged together to give you a healthy, high performing athlete.
Yeah.
What So when you were coming out of high school, what what was kind of the biggest adjustment, whether it was from high school basketball or AAU basketball? What was the biggest adjustment you had to make moving to the Division 1 level?
Yeah. The biggest adjustment for me right off the bat was pace. Pace from an AAU basketball game to a Division 1 Big 12 basketball game. And I remember I remember this vividly. It was the first practice at Iowa State. It was like the first official practice. And we had our scout team playing against us. So the scout team are Iowa State male students, and they are on the scout team, and they're with us all year round. Okay. So we were doing a scrimmage, and I was in playing against these scout guys. And first of all, I was gassed because I was like, this pace is insane. Pace for the girls, like for my teammates, I'm like, they are hauling. But then the men we're playing against going extra fast. And the post player that I was playing against, Charlie, he was a freshman as well on the scout team, and he dunked on me. And he dunked on me. And I I remember calling my mom after the practice. I'm like, am I supposed to be here? Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Well, it ended up Charlie didn't know he was not allowed to dunk on us. So they told him quickly, like, hey, don't do that. But the biggest shock was just the pace, the speed, and adapting to that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope you didn't call home crying to your mom because you got dunked
Yeah,
on.
it was close.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, that transition. And I hear that a lot that, the speed of the game, no matter what it is, it's just faster. And, when I got to Iowa State, it was an eye opener. Like I thought I was a freak. I was one of the best in the United States at what I did. And I got to Iowa State. I wasn't even the best on my own team. And everybody's good. To play at that level, doesn't matter what it is. You have to have some ability that the majority of human beings on the earth don't have. And so you quickly realize maybe I'm not special. Maybe everybody here is really, really good. So, I learned very, very quickly that, what was going on between my ears is what was going to separate me from the competition. And so I got into it. There was a sports psychologist on campus that we worked with a lot. He taught me about imagery, all those type of things. Talk to me about your walk as an athlete and how you perceived the mental approach. And then as now, somebody that's working with athletes on mindset, how did you perceive it as a college basketball player, and how do you look at it now? Like, what has changed over time and how do you teach it?
Hmm. Yeah. So going into my freshman year, I didn't really know much about mindset. My mindset was work hard, keep going, just power through. Okay. So when I kind of experienced my first taste of being on the court and really, really struggling I was starting to experience fear of making mistakes. I just wanted to be perfect. I wanted to prove myself to my teammates, to my coaches. I wanted to show them like you made the right choice. Like you picked the right one. And with that desire to just be the best, it led to fear of failure, fear of making mistakes, to the point of didn't really, and I say this openly now, I didn't really want the ball sometimes in practice because I didn't want to make the mistake. I didn't want to be the one to cause us to have a turnover. So from kind of the start of my freshman experience, I realized pretty quick, hey, I need some help with my mindset. I need someone to walk me through this because I can't keep going in this kind of direction of going deeper into this hole of just struggling internally and kind of self-sabotaging my opportunities on and off the basketball court. So that was my experience at the start of freshman year. And then the coaches pulled me aside pretty early and said, hey, we'd like you to redshirt. There's a lot of post players in your position that are ahead of you, and you're not going to see the court much at all. So we'd like you to redshirt. That was another mental hurdle for me to get over, because now I'm telling myself, man, I'm not even good enough to play right now. Like, so my experience was different than yours of you coming in like, I'm the best. Where having to work through that, like, okay, now I'm gonna redshirt. Had to work through that mindset too. Luckily, there was a resource that I found on the Iowa State campus of a psychologist and was able to help talk me through some of this stuff of looking at redshirt as an opportunity and not as kind of wallowing in my frustrations and struggling to understand why am I in this position of a red shirt, and really shifting that perspective and that mindset to, okay, this is a awesome opportunity for me to get stronger in the weight room, to get faster on the court. I can learn all the plays. I became part of the scout team. So I was playing against my teammates in practice. I got to travel with my team. So tried to look at it as an opportunity to continue to grow. Iowa State, I think the start of my senior year, hired a sports psychologist just for athletes. And that was a huge step that Iowa State made. And I think it's pretty cool that I was a part of that transition period. And I think it's really awesome that now freshmen can come in and have this sports psychologist at their hands ready for them that is literally in the athlete facility for them. So an awesome move that Iowa State made. And I think that would have been awesome to have as for me as a freshman, but just like you got to use the resources, use what you got. But through those kind of mentors and like people who helped work me through my mindset, man, I was learning things up to my last game at Iowa State. I was still learning things about my mindset. It takes time. It can't just be one conversation and be like, all right, go get them. It's like, we have to continue these conversations. You gotta, just like you practice, let's say, free throws in basketball or dribbling in basketball, you have to practice the mindset side of it too, the mental side. So for me in college, when I think of what did I do, it was visualization. It was a lot of journaling of before games and after games, kind of writing, putting down my thoughts onto a piece of paper. That really helped me. Having strategies during the game of, okay, I just made a mistake. How do I pull myself out of this hole and move forward? So kind of worked on stopped looking back and started looking forward. And yeah, some strategies work, some don't. It really depends on the athlete. And so that was kind of my journey in college when I hung up the basketball shoes for my basketball career. When I was done with that, did some reflection, just looked in the mirror of my collegiate career, and mindset really stood out to me. That was a huge pivotal turning point for me as a college athlete. Obviously, the physical skill, I got better as I was competing against these 22, 23-year-olds, as I was learning the plays, as I was listening to my coaches. Of course, I got better that way, but I really improved when I used my mindset as a tool and not as a hindrance, and not something that was holding me back. So that was something that I was able to tap into and realized I didn't have that in high school. I didn't even know about it. Like, I went into my freshman year saying, I need help and I don't know where to turn. So I kind of starting my own business, want to work with younger athletes, middle school, high school athletes of all sports, and just starting those conversations of let's utilize our mind as a tool and specific strategies. And I see a lot of high school athletes struggling with it. And especially when you're playing 70 games of a year. When you're so deep into your sport, you're deep into that mindset struggle too at times with specific things. And so having a couple strategies to kind of remove yourself and do a little look in the mirror, some reflection of, okay, where am I at? What do I need? What am I struggling with? Where are my goals? Am I working towards my goals? Or am I holding myself back? Do I need to pivot to another direction? So I think I know that mindset is very valuable, and everyone is different in their mindset. Everyone's, I feel like, struggling with slightly different things. Boys are different than girls. Some individual sport different than a team sport. And so just tapping into that. So that's my mindset story.
Today's episode of Building the Athlete is brought to you by Branded Bills. If you're like me, you live in your hat, at work, on the field, in the weight room, and everywhere in between. Branded Bills makes premium, high-quality hats that actually fit right and hold up to the grind. clean, everyday styles that are built for athletes and coaches who demand more. Check out branded bills and upgrade your headwear game today. There's a link in our bio for 10% off your first order. What do you think is the biggest mindset issue from high school athletes that you see in your experience?
Self-talk, the internal dialogue that you have with yourself. So many athletes talking to themselves, kind of putting themselves down, tearing themselves down instead of building themselves up, being their harshest critic instead of their biggest cheerleader. I've told people before, like, what you say to yourself, would you say that to your teammate or like your best friend? Would you say that to someone else? And they're usually like, no. Okay, well, don't say it to yourself. There's already so many external pressures that you're experiencing from coaches, parents, collegiate coach, like recruiting. There's a lot going on in youth athletics, in youth sports. And so I think building yourself up, being an advocate for you is ground zero, is the start.
Yeah. When you got to Iowa State and you saw those athletes, it didn't have to be just women's basketball, just people on campus, other athletes that you knew were killing it. They were doing well. Could you immediately tell there was just something different about them mentally?
I think when I got older, I could. When I started learning what mindset can do, it started to be revealed to me. But I would say as a freshman, I would just think like, man, they're built different. Like that's awesome, But as I got older, I realized, oh, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of tools. There's a lot of resources. There's a lot of conversations that happen behind the scenes. It's easy to watch someone on a field or a court and be like, he or she's got it. Like they've got it. And I don't believe it's you got it or you don't got it. I think there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So I learned that as I got older, and I think I can see that better now. But yeah, it puts it into perspective.
Do you remember your incoming freshman class? Do you remember everybody?
On my basketball team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many were there?
There was 3 freshmen, including me, and 1 transfer.
Okay. Did the 4 of you all go through 4 or 5 years together?
So the transfer, she came from a junior college, so she only had 2 years left. And so the 3 freshmen, we all graduated from Iowa State. Yes.
Okay. I think that's kind of unusual. I don't know what the numbers are. The last time I heard it, if you look across NCAA, I mean, freshmen, generally about 50% of those classes stay and make it. And that was a stat that I heard, 5 or 10 years ago. So now it's probably 2% because nobody stays anywhere anymore. You just look at Iowa State's football team, what's going on right now, where they were down to 16 players and 1 returning starter. Absolutely just destroyed the program with the transfer portal. What is your feeling on that?
Yeah. I can say I'm glad that the transfer portal wasn't so fluid when I was a freshman, and that because the recruiting game has changed from when I was getting recruited. So when I was a freshman playing at Iowa State, the transfer rule was if you transferred, you had to sit out a whole year. So huge consequences, or yeah, I'd say consequences to kind of deter you from transferring, or you had to think twice.
Yeah.
And then my third year at Iowa State was when that second or third year is when that transfer portal became very fluid and just wide open. That was when NIL became wide open and transfers, you can go and not having to miss a season or a year. So that's definitely changed the game. And you kind of touched on this at the very beginning, but now you're having freshmen competing against transfers, but you guys are all considered new to the program. Really changes the dynamic. I think it's, looking back at my experience, it was pretty cool to be able to be at Iowa State for 5 years. I learned the program. I learned the coaches were there too. That coaching staff has been there forever. And I learned, the plays, the ins and outs, my role. I got familiar. I got used to a certain style, a certain way of playing. And that's where I was able to find some growth. I was able to find my role because I began to get comfortable in that system. I can only speak from my own experience. So my 6th year, I went to a Division II school in Southern Florida, and that team was full of transfers. We had maybe 1 or 2 freshmen, and the rest of us were transfers. And it was kind of wild. It was crazy for the component of that coach of the team that I was on, was trying to teach a certain way that she wanted us to be on offense, on defense. But we had 6 transfers that had all spent a few years at different institutions learning a very different way of basketball. So it was very interesting and kind of eye-opening to me, of like, wow, this is crazy to be meshing so many different paths from other teams. And it was a challenge, at least for that team. It was a challenge to mesh. We eventually got there, but that was a very interesting experience and eye-opening to me of how much transfers kind of changed the team dynamic.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the effect of NIL on college athletics, and specifically just in your experience. I can tell you 1,000 years ago when I was in college, I can remember when I got to Iowa State, the only thing I wanted was, and this is dating myself a little bit because it wasn't the Big 12, it was the Big 8 conference.
Yep.
But I had guys on the team that had these massive Big 8 championship rings. And that is all I wanted. That was all I could think about. I was going to do everything to make sure I scored as many points as I could, to build my teammates up, to make sure they did the same thing, because we wanted those rings. And, now you get a ring if you make it to the state tournament. It's so worn out at this point. I talk about this because my teammates and I, we won a lot of championships. We were, top 5 nationally, but we're still very, very close, like a lot of us. And we built this camaraderie by working together, fighting together, winning together, losing together. And I see those valuable experiences and lessons being lost out on now by current athletes because they're more concerned about how much money they can put in their pocket. Did you personally see it, in your experience, where the money became more important than anything else?
Yeah. I would say no. I got the beginning part of NIL. My last year at Iowa State was kind of when it started to begin its rise of being more focused about money, but I didn't really experience that. I was just, I feel like 1 or 2 years short of that really taking off. I'd say even 1 year of taking off. I feel like I graduated from Iowa State and then it just took off. So,
I mean, it would have been nice to get paid, but I think in the long run, I'm very, very happy that I had the experience that I did, because of the relationships that those probably wouldn't have been so important if the focus would have been somewhere else. The team aspect would have been lost. And, I've seen it with athletes that I work with, that their mindset has completely changed. And I'm not faulting them. I mean, that's the world that they live in now. I don't know where I fall on it, because you can't walk NIL back at this point.
yeah, no, it's wide open.
But
Like,
I think they should have capped it, or it just I just don't know where it goes from here. Like, you look at a Texas Tech that they just had the most money infused into their program, and now they're one of the best football teams in the country, and so it takes away a little bit from competing in amateur athletics. It's no longer amateur athletics.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw the Colorado football coach when he was like meeting with his team of the people who decided to stay and the transfers. He set up something on the screen, a big slide of he would fine his players, charge them money if they did certain things. Like, if you wear your old school's team, you will be fined $500. Like, they were like significant amount of money, and just like like everyone's getting paid, they have that money.
Yeah.
but it was kind of wild. He had a whole list, maybe like 20 things. Like, if you do this, you're getting fined. If you do this, late to practice, you're getting fined. And I just thought, like, wow, what a world. To college athletics treated more and more like a professional team.
Yeah, I read an article today that Travis Hunter, who was at Colorado and won the Heisman Trophy, the poor guy was starving in college because he only got $250,000 a month, 250,000 a month, and he was broke. Now in the NFL, he's making $1 million a month or something like that, and it's like, come on, are you serious? This is not even real world. They've lost, they've lost all touch with real world when you've got kids making that type of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to see the class attendance probably not real good.
Yeah, it takes away from the school atmosphere for sure
Yeah.
as well. And that makes me sad. I love academics, and academics has been a big part of my life. Knowing that probably isn't as big of a priority, and probably hopefully using that money for good. Or I was talking to someone the other day and just talking about I would assume that universities are doing some sort of financial literacy with athletes, teaching them, educating them of how to use that money the right way. Because if you're on a team and you get that NIL deal, I hope you can use it the right way and to benefit you and take you into whatever's the next phase of life. But
Yeah.
man,
I've had
that's a
those conversations with athletes that I've worked with that, have been drafted. My first question to him is like, "What are you going to do with your signing?" Or I'll ask him, "What kind of car are you going to buy with your signing bonus?" And they'll kind of reluctantly answer, "I don't think I'm going to buy a car." And I'm like, "That's the right answer. Put
Mhm.
every dime of that money away and forget about it for the next 30, 40 years, and you're going to be just fine, no matter
Mhm.
what happens with your career." But people think that money is real and that it's going to be sustainable for the next 30 years. And the truth is, no matter what your sport is, it's going to be gone in probably 5 years or less. And so I think you're exactly right. Not only should they have people teaching them, they should probably be hiring money managers to help them, place that money in the right spot.
Mhm.
So crazy world. Enough talk about that. One topic I definitely want to get to here before we close up is, part of your work is counseling athletes on nutrition. I think it is one of the most underutilized spaces in all of athletics. I've seen some crazy things over the years. I've had athletes that I've gotten them onto nutrition plans, and it was like putting them on performance enhancing drugs. Like they 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 gained so much in such a short period of time just by eating correctly. And
Yeah.
it's a deal where I've had them journal. I've sat down with the family because most of the time high school kids don't cook for themselves. So mom and dad have to be involved in that conversation.
Mhm.
Um, Females, ugh, I've got two of them, and my older daughter was always pretty good about it, but my younger daughter is super picky. She's trying to do better, but they don't understand what they should be eating, when they should be eating it, how much of it they should be eating. You've always got the stigma with females that they're afraid of gaining weight, so they're calorically deficient most of the time. What are the issues you see with younger athletes and their nutrition?
Yeah. To start, just the education component of it, debunking the myths that society can put in place, especially for females, but for all athletes, of debunking those myths and getting down to just what is going to make you the best athlete that you need to be. And just like you're disciplined in your sport, just like you're consistent in maybe going to practice or being very focused in your sport, you need to be focused and disciplined in other components. Just like going to like strength training. That's a really easy example, but a big part of that is another bucket of it is nutrition, of being dialed in, being focused, and being educated on what's like I like to just break it down to the basics. Even if the athlete knows it, let's talk about it one more time. So we really know what's a protein, what's a carbohydrate. Carbs are good. It's your energy tanks, it's your fuel. It keeps you going. Fats good for kind of more endurance. It's great for our brains. Just the education component I like that you touched on timing. I really love talking about timing of eating before a game. What does that look like after a game? Snacks during like a halftime. I'm working with a girl right now, and she's like, "Man, I'm always gassed by the end of my game. My legs are just jello." So I was like, have an applesauce or some fruit snacks or like a couple cuties. Eat something during halftime. You're not eating enough. Like you need that fuel. Your body's literally saying, "We don't have anything left. So good luck." And she started eating something very small during half times and feeling great, feeling fueled, feeling like, yeah, I can finish the game now. It's little things. It doesn't have to be this life altering big deal of a thing. I think it's just little things to learn to implement. Always like bring snacks with you, okay? Know what snacks are the best to have. Know what you're looking for. Be prepared. Be prepared so that you don't get into that situation where you're like, I don't have anything, and I'll just go to practice. No, that's not you. Like, you wouldn't show up late to a practice. Oh, I hope you wouldn't. But you wouldn't show up late to something. Don't show up late with your nutrition as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an important thing. And again, I just think there's not very many I haven't seen very many high school athletes that are doing the right things. What about supplementing? How do you advise on young athletes supplementing, or what should they be using as supplements?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like electrolytes. I think those are great. Big one that is well researched is creatine. That one, I feel like supplements can be more individual based at times, and based off your situation, I'm a big advocate of let's look at your diet first. Like, what are you eating and where can we fit in things to fill the gaps? But I don't think that supplement should be a big thing that like you're leaning on. But creatine, I'm a big advocate for creatine. Uh, it's one of the most researched supplements out there.
It seems like they keep coming up with more and more benefits for females with creatine, like
Yeah.
the cognitive function. Now they're talking about it helps with depression. Like there's so many things that seem to just keep coming out. And I just think I agree with you 100% that that's one that everybody should be taking, not just not just females. But my last show, which will air this weekend, he's a sports performance, works predominantly with females, and I think he said, I couldn't remember the number, but that females produce a far smaller amount of creatine naturally than males do. So their females are already kind of behind on it. So it's just so important to them. And yeah, anybody listening, I would be on the creatine.
Yeah, they have powders. You can get them in like little gummies.
Yep. And the research is showing that the gummies they're not really stacking up as far as absorption.
Okay.
So the powders are much more, they absorb much better, and the results are much better with the powders. And that's awesome because I bought, I think, 3 bottles of like 200 gummies, and I'm stubborn, so I'm going to take all of them.
Yeah, yeah, you should.
But then I'm going to be back to the powder. So yeah, that's definitely something, the nutrition. And I don't like all the I don't like pre-workouts. I don't think if you have to supplement a bunch of protein, then you're not eating correctly.
Yes.
So and
Yes.
the other thing, and I mean kind of another Iowa State story, but I had a guy when I left Iowa State, I was, I think, number 2 all time, and a guy ended up beating me probably 10 years ago to move ahead of me on the list. Well, at the NCAA track meet, he was going back and forth. Should I take my pre-workout? He took it and he popped on the test. And he was kicked out of track and field for 1 year. Not
Wow.
allowed to, I mean, couldn't compete obviously for Iowa State, but couldn't compete unattached. Had to be completely out of the sport for a full year because he took pre-workout. So, I mean, there are some ramifications with some of that. I mean, they've done a better job now of certifying and saying what you can and can't take that's NCAA approved, but there can be issues with some of that stuff if it's on a banned list. So very important to know what you're putting into your body.
Yeah, and I think if you're relying on something like a pre-workout, you need to be looking at other components of your athlete life, like your sleep. This should not be something that's you're taking pre-workout because something else is lacking, like your sleep and your recovery.
Yeah.
Like there's There's bigger issues if you're relying on this. There's more things that you need to take a look in the mirror and look at.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So I end all of my shows the same way. And I'm gonna put a lot of pressure on you. We're gonna do a speed round of questions. So I
Okay.
need you better start with that visualization right now. You better
Yep.
start with the mental prep. Um, before we get to that, I wore my Iowa State hat just for you. This is branded Bills. This is one of my the official hat of Benson Sports Training and Building the Athlete. So for those of you listening, if you want the best hat ever, you can go to the link in my bio to get that. Funny story, one of my teammates and I, we found this company and they're obviously Iowa State licensed. And so now we have a competition going. And every time one of us gets a new Iowa State hat, we got to let the other one know. And I have so many of these hats, it's crazy, but I love them. So, all right. So, like I said, I want short answers. You can't think about these things. You just got to pop off the answers. You ready to go?
Yes.
All right. Favorite drill of all time?
Favorite shooting competition drill?
Okay. What was the college team you most enjoyed beating?
Texas.
Okay. What's the most points you ever scored in a college game?
16.
One thing players waste too much time on?
Social media.
Best habit an elite player has?
Mindset training.
Worst habit players have?
Social media. I don't know.
Best player you ever faced?
Kalani Brown, Baylor.
Film or extra reps?
Extra reps.
Handles or footwork?
Footwork.
Squat or deadlift?
Squat.
First thing you'd look at on a new player that you're working with?
Fundamentals.
One thing you'd tell your younger self?
Utilize your resources around you.
Okay. And this is by far the most important question I'm going to ask you in this entire interview. Hickory Park or Jethro's?
I guess Hickory Park.
You got to answer Hickory Park. All right. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate how you and I came together, that Iowa State introduced us and we went through a mentorship program together. So it's been great getting to know you, and now as a professional, we've had some conversations and bounced some ideas off of each other. And I hope we continue that communication. So again, I really appreciate your time and great information. And thanks for being with me.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much. It's been a great relationship that we've had and we'll continue.
All right. Well, maybe we'll have to get you back on the show again.
Great.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for joining the show. We appreciate you listening in. If you liked the content, please give us a subscribe or a follow. For more information on Benson Sports Training, you can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. We have lots of informational videos out to help you in your training path. I'd like to thank Morgan Kane for being on the show, former Iowa State basketball player, now running her own business, working with athletes on mindset and nutrition. Great content. Really enjoyed the conversation. Again, got to thank Branded Bills, different hat every episode. These are my favorite hats. If you are in need, there's a link in our bio. Please check them out. High quality products, and really appreciate their partnership with us. So join us again next time. Again, bensonsportstraining.com, Benson Sports Training on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Please, if you enjoyed the content, please follow us or subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. So until next time.